Okay, and I think we're also live on Facebook. So, hello everybody, and welcome to Coffee Talk. And I have a wonderful special guest from Brazil, Andria Souza. Is that how you pronounce
Yes, yes.
it? And we are both Talk to the Entities facilitators. So, how fun is it that we're going to have a topic of entities and money? People are always interested in that.
You know, thank you for having me, Julie. And for a long time, I didn't recognize my ability to talk to the entities. I thought that was a bad karma or something really. And I used to joke around that I had a sister that was gorgeous. I have my brother that could eat anything, and me, the one that talked to the dead people. And that was like the family joke. And I was like, why me? But I never understood that. And once I got into Access and took my first TTE class, my world just expanded in a way that I was like, oh my God, this is an ability and everything is an entity. Wow. So from that, I start to use the tool so much. And I love talking about that. I have this point of view that if it worked for me, it can work for anyone that chose. And when I got into Access, I was in a huge amount of debt because I was depressed and I had panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and I was diagnosed as bipolar. So I was taking 48 pills a day.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a
And
lot.
yeah. And then in the middle of everything, I got a fibromyalgia
Mhm.
disease. And I was like, for 6 years, I couldn't live a life. I was like struggling to survive, basically. And I remember that I was taking all kinds of metaphysics classes and quantic healing and all that kind of stuff. And a friend of mine, every time I saw her, she was this gorgeous. Every time she was like younger and she had this glow on her. It was like, oh my God, this quantic healing thing is working. And I told her that, and she said, oh no, that's not that, that's Access. And I was
Uh,
like, no, I can't stand anything anymore. I'm like, please God, take me. And
it's so
I
funny
was
that I just need to interrupt for 1 second. As you were talking about that, this this cat came into my yard and like walked right up here. I was like, oh, that's interesting. They
entities.
perceive the energy. Yeah. Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Anyway, so I was like, oh no, I can't stand. And I was raised in a spiritualist religion. So like killing yourself was against the faith. So I literally prayed every night to die, basically. And then my friend, oh, I'm gonna run your bars. I was like, oh, what's that? I had no idea what was that. And it was like on the beginning of Access in Brazil. So just really a few people knew about Access at that time. And as she was running my bars, I started to perceive these entities around me. And I was like, what is this? But I start to like literally feel a relaxation in my body and a peace that I had struggled my whole life to find.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my God, I have to learn about this. So I went and learned it, like all that I could. And I went into the internet and looking for that. And the universe always had my back in a way that after that I became a translator for Access. And Brazil started growing so much in Access, and they had only 2 translators by the time that I arrived. So we basically spent like every weekend translating. Some weekends I would translate like during the day and then a call at night. It was huge for me. And I was always like struggling with money, and I was always on the doing mode until one day I was in a class with Shannon, and I told her, I choose to be a millionaire and it's not happening. Like, what am I doing wrong? Basically, it's like the basic question. You always think you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I
Guys,
know I've chosen
forget.
this. Now, why isn't it showing up?
Yeah. And I was like, literally, I was like, what am I doing wrong, Shannon? And Shannon was like, what's right about this that you're not getting? What choice? So she started to asking me questions, and I started to play with entities, and I start to see my money as an entity. So I
Mm,
start to talk to my money the same way that I would talk to any other entity. And it was really funny because I have a lot of things that happened, but right before COVID, I was facilitating overseas, and I came back to Brazil. So I had this amount of dollars, and I was like, oh, I'm going to exchange that into reais. That's like the money of Brazil.
mm,
And then I have to put my 10% in the bank. So I have to do two different transactions. So I was going to the exchange house, and my body started to contract. And I was like, and I started to get in this no, 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 It's like, what's going on? And then I was like, oh, that's my money talking to me. So
mm.
I sit down in my car, opened my purse. I had a lot of dollars there. So I started to talk to the money. And each dollar that I was getting was like, do not change me, do not change me. I was like, what's going on here? So I came back home, did a lot of other questions, asked my playmates, to help me get that, because I was getting the energy and the no, but I didn't have words. And every time that I was like, what's going on? I couldn't put into words. Of course, none of us knew that, we were going to be. So that was December. In February, we went into lockdown here.
Mm.
In April, my money was like twice the amount if I exchange. So like when I was going to exchange, it was like 3 something reais for $1. And
Mhm.
then on April, it was like 6 something for $1.
Wow.
And that was like, that was one of the best experience I had, like really to see
Yeah.
the thing,
To
because
listen.
sometimes you,
Yeah. To
yeah, and exactly. And sometimes when you don't have words to put, you get like, because it's just an energy.
Mhm,
And then when you use the tools of talking to the energy, you start to listen to the energy, you know?
mhm,
And that was something really big for me, because that was where I relearned, that if I truly follow the energy, I do not have to know the words or know exactly cognitively like what's going on here, or what's going to happen. I just get this, okay, if this is a no and I go with the no, what else? So like everybody was going crazy because they're losing money. It was like, I'm making money.
Yes.
And so during like COVID, I stayed in São Paulo. And that was another thing. I was facilitating in Colombia, and I was supposed to come back home. And I had supposedly one more week of classes there. And then out of nowhere on Sunday, I started to get this tightness in my chest, and I was like, I have to go home. I have to go home. And I told my host, okay, I'm canceling the classes and I'm going back home. And she was like, but there's people. I say, I will talk to these people. I will come back again, but something is going to happen and I have to go home. I cannot tell you what it is, but I just get this sense that, it's so strong that physically I'm like, the air is not flowing. And she's like, okay, let's cancel the classes. And so we finished the foundation on that Sunday. And when we returned to the apartment that we were, like the Colombian president went live and said, we're closing the airports tomorrow.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like calling the airline company, and I was the last person that got on the flight outside, And it was so funny because as I was talking to the company, the travel agency sent me an email saying the airports were closed, they could not put me in any flights and blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to the company and the guy said, okay, you have 2 hours to be at the airport if you want to go. I said, I'm going, I don't care. So I threw everything in my suitcase and closed. And then when I arrived in Sao Paulo, the airports were closed. So I stayed in Sao Paulo, and thanks universe, I stayed at a friend's house that she's a maestro. And then Fabio, that's the other translator, and he's at TTCF also, went to that house. And we stayed for 3 months playing, literally playing with the tools. We would sleep during the day because we got like all, and then at night we'd play with the tools, and the money started to come to me, even though I wasn't like literally playing and say, how come money? I was like, okay, I require ease, joy, and glory here with all this situation, And it was so funny because the money started to come to me. Literally, like somebody would call me, I'm paying you a class. I don't know when you have this class in my city, but I will pay for you now, like in advance,
Wow.
And it was so awesome. And I was like, okay, I will be doing 21-day program just, to talk to the entities and to the earth. And then like on the same day, launched his 14 days program. I was like, okay, now I get that I'm like on the wave of the energy, And a lot of facilitators got that like around the same time. And it was so fun. And like literally, my mom had COVID, and she was at the ICU for 21 days. And I would go to the hospital, I would go to the, everywhere, and I would play with the tools. And I would ask questions like, okay, what can I be here that will, make everybody relaxed? And every time I would play with that and talk to the entities, money started to come to me. And when I was when I was beginning my access way, or I was getting to access, I had a 200,000 debt. And then afterwards I start to play with that, and then like I lived in a house, and the house started telling me, it's time for you to move, I'm too small for you. And I was like, but this house is big. But the place where the house was different than the energy that I was being. So out of nowhere, I asked, okay, I desire this house. And I draw like in a paper, and I'm the worst drawer, like the worst. I don't have I cannot do a square line or something like that, So I start to do like, okay, I want this, I want this, I want a fireplace, I want that. And I was like asking for the universe, I want this. That's like, universe, please. And that was a Thursday night. And I was coming back to South to do a surgery. And on Tuesday, the real estate guy called me and said, okay, I have this house. It's not what you were asking for, but there is this land that the house is in that you can like increase the house. And it's like you have this space. It's 900 square feet, and will be like, when I arrived here, I saw exactly, I couldn't see the house that was there. I was seeing like how it was gonna come. And I said, oh God, I do not have the money. I was like, okay, the money will come. And like the money came, like, the bank mortgage and all that. And in the next day, I came to the house and I talked to this house, I talked to the land. Okay, do you want me here? Contribute to me, please. What can you do to be a contribution, like to get me the money and everything? If you want to be mine, everything will be is joy and glory, period. And so on the other day, I went there to sign some papers and to measure everything. And the whole ground was full of dandelion, the lion dandelion, and it was like,
Dandelion.
oh my God, yes. And it was like, oh my God, that's like, the answer of the universe. So things to me, like I talk to money and to the entities really with ease now. And as Gary liked to say, the thing that you think is your wrongness is your strength. And that was something for me that was like really huge. And before that, I was always so sad. Like I couldn't find happiness, It was something that I was always searching for. It was somewhere very far, far away from me, And I would do the mantra, and the part where I say joy, I was like, okay, I asked for joy, but does this really, exist? Like I thought that we could have like moments of joy and or happiness, and that was it. And I kept, going to the mantra and receiving facilitations. And now, like, I'm really happy, my life is joyful. Like, even though sometimes something that would happen that would cause me supposedly some, stress, I was like, okay, this cannot affect like my way of being. Because for me, it's not a mood, it's really a way of being, And when I ask for more money or, and of course, I like something that Shannon says, and also Gary, you have to educate yourself on money. And I had the formal education because my major was business, and then I went into my PhD was finances. So I had all this reality about money, that you have to do this, and this, A plus B to get a C and all that. And then when the students start to come into my life, and I start to talk to my money, to my bank account, to everything, it became so natural to me, But it was a muscle that I was developing throughout the years, And now I see like how judgmental I was about myself, about everything, and everything that I overcome, to get into where I wanted. And of course, I'm always asking for more. And every now and then I ask, okay, is this in the same energy that I am now, like, is this computer or this purse or whatever? Last week I did a cleaning in my house, and some stuffs are like, when you just throw that. I have we call throw room, that we throw everything in there and save God someday. So I took everything out and I started to talk to everything. Okay, do you still want to be with me? Or, and literally the energy changed so much, like for everything. And after that, somebody that was owing me some money just called me and was like, oh, I got the money, I'm gonna pay you. And I literally thought that I put that money on the lost found, because he owed me for like almost 2 years. I thought, okay, this person's never gonna pay me, and it's okay. Let's outcreate that. And out of nowhere, it just like called me and, oh, I got money now. I will pay you. I was like, wow, awesome. you know.
Yeah. It's
And
so true. You know, one of the things that you said is that you were not happy, you were not joyful, and you were in judgment of yourself and your ability. And like, that's what creates that. We don't realize that we're stopping ourselves. And how amazing is it that, you know, meeting somebody who's being a different energy sparks that, like, oh, there's a different possibility there. And getting your bars run opens it up more. And then all of a sudden, you know, that joy just explodes throughout your life. And I love how you were talking about how you learned all about money in this reality and how to create from this reality. But if we're being this joyful energy beyond all of that, even if you're not doing per se, and you're not judging that you're not doing, then things can come to you. And the not judging part is probably the most difficult, because most of us aren't even aware that we're self-critical like that. But
yes,
yeah.
one time I was doing like a 30-day non-judgment period. And after a week, I was like, okay, Gary, something is wrong with me, you know? No judgment there. You guys see? I couldn't ask a question. I would go to the wrongness of me the whole time. And Gary was laughing, of course, you know, he was like, is there a question there? Because I just see judgment, you know, and it's like, I'm doing this no judgment thing. And it seems like I'm judging myself more every day. And he was like, no, you are realizing how much have you been judging and made wrong your whole life? And then I was like, oh my God, that just went boom in my
Yeah.
word, you know, because I didn't realize that I was, you know, this bitch to myself. Like I wasn't, the problem was not like, I would tease that if there was a tsunami in Australia, that's the other, and probably I had done something wrong here to happen there, you know. And it was really a choice to change that.
Yeah.
And I'm but I'm so grateful for the entities and the beings of light because they're always there for me. Like, you know, one time I was taking a shower and I was asking a lot of questions and I couldn't get out of that. And I was like, what's that? What's going on? And blah, 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 blah. And then I come to my room and out of nowhere, they start to talk on my phone. Like literally, my phone opened on the ESB. And I was like, and he was literally in that class saying what I was stuck during my shower, you know. And I was like, oh my God. My phone was far away from me and out of nowhere, you know, that's how I know that there are so many entities around us and how much they are willing to contribute if you are willing to receive.
Yeah. And that's the big if. Because so many people are like,
Yes.
oh my God, entities are bad. They're scary. They're wrong. Or they don't exist. And so therefore you can't have any of the good stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. I just love the tools of Talk to the Entities so much. It's so far beyond what people think it is. It is not just, you know, your dead grandmother or something like that. It's really like with every physical aspect of life, there's an entity kingdom as well.
Yes.
And so,
You know,
to exclude that from your awareness is excluding a huge amount from your life. And when you include it, you become more light and joyful. Like it's just a byproduct.
yes, I was right when I got into Access, like I I was taking all those pills, and the doctors would be like, "Oh, you will be like this forever. There is no healing from this, and we just have to modulate the pills and blah blah blah." So you took one to sleep, another one to wake up, another one to, hold on during the day, and then you take a shot because you have pain and blah blah blah. And I went into a COP, and that time, like, Gary would do the COP, and then you would be in the back doing maestro sessions. And I was like,
Right.
oh my God. I was like, that's what I wanted. So I was listening to Gary facilitating and looking, doing the energies. So I did a session with him, and I was a portal, and he closed that. And from that day on, I didn't take any more medicines. I knew that what was happening there was like freedom for me. So I went into the bathroom, threw all the pills away, and my mom was there, and my mom is a doctor. So
Mm.
I was like, huh, if my mom finds this in the garbage, she'll take it back because she'll believe that, and she'll try to impose her point of view on me. So I throw everything on the toilet and flush it, all the medicines. So no backup plan. That's it.
Was she at the COP with
You
you?
better. I think so. It
Wow.
was, yeah. She didn't take the class, but she was at the resort in Costa Rica,
Oh,
and she met
okay.
Gary and Dane and all that. And but she took foundation and took bars. And one day she had this. Uh, she is a trauma pediatrician,
Mhm.
so she was doing this air trans transport, like they had these ICUs in airplanes to move to one city to another. So she was with a small kid there, and the kid starts to go into an epileptic
Mhm.
attack. And she said that she heard my voice. Of course, it was not my voice, but that's how she believed it. And she said she heard my voice saying, "Put your hands on his head." And she put the hands on his head, and I said, "MTVSS." And she just started running MTVSS, and the kid just slowly went, and she couldn't remove the hands of his head because when she tried to remove, he would go shaking again. So she flew for like 3 hours in the ICU airplane,
Wow.
with hands on his head. And basically, uh, that was something really interesting also for me, that she could do that. And she's a
That's
really good
so,
receiver.
that's
So
wow. Wow. And
and
we're already up to the end of our
oh
half hour. Can you believe
yeah,
it?
it went so fast.
Yeah. Well, those were some really amazing stories. And I'm just so happy to hear like what you've been able to get and like getting off all that medication immediately. Like, wow, that's just huge. So
Yes.
that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And hopefully this will inspire other people to know that they can create different things if they choose. So how does it
Thank
get?
you for inviting me, and for this amazing thing that you do with all facilitators, and the space that you open, to the magic to be in this world.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks everybody for watching, and
Thank you. Bye.
see you next week. Bye.